بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة بوجهه الكريم. I want to give us a piece of advice before we start. And it is a very important piece of advice that we all need to consider. No one of us, not one of us, are free from considering this advice. And it is in matters of the religion, في أمور الدين, in matters of the religion, always look to those who are above you in knowledge, in practice, in station, in state. In matters of the religion, always look to those who are above you in knowledge, practice, station, and state. And when I say station and state, I'm talking about levels of spirituality, right? Whenever you want to measure yourself or weigh yourself in terms of the religious matters, look to people who are better than you in their knowledge or in their practice or in their station or in their state. That's for religious matters. And when you do that, what should develop in you is a sense of realizing you're falling short, and then a strong desire to endeavor to become better. And that's every day, every moment, every blink of an eye. Every day, every moment, every blink of an eye, you should be looking to those above you to realize where you at and where you need to improve. Every moment it's going to be like that. From moment to moment, you're going to be having good moments, bad moments, good times, bad times, successes, failures, acts of obedience, sins. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the world, right? You're not going to be in one state all the time. It's not going to happen. If it was like that, you wouldn't be a human being, you would be an angel. And you're not an angel. And I am not an angel. We're human beings. So we're going to have times of obedience and times of disobedience. In all those moments, even in the moments of obedience, look to people that's above you in that obedience. Look to people who do more obedience than you, so that you can realize even when you're doing something, you're still falling short and you need to endeavor to do better. That's from one side of it. The other side, في أمور الدنيا, in matters of the world, always look to those who have less than you. Never look to those who have more than you. When you look to others who are less than you, you will always be reminded of the favors of Allah Ta'ala upon you, even if they're little in your eyesight. And every favor from Allah is great. But sometimes when we look in the world of those who have more than us, we tend to lack appreciation for the endowments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And out of his generosity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spread his endowments among people. So everyone has some endowment, some ni'mah that's specific for them that he didn't give to others. Most people never discover that, but it does exist. All of us have some special endowment that Allah gave us. And all of us have some shared endowments. But all those endowments, we should be grateful and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those endowments and not be distracted from the immensity of those endowments by the endowments of someone who we think has more than us. In reality, everyone has what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows is best for them and willed for them to have, and created in them those endowments by his power. So what would develop from that is being content with what Allah has given you. And that is a treasure that never runs out. That is a treasure that never runs out. Our teachers called it the real treasure. Al-Kanzu al-Haqiqi, the real treasure. It's al-Qana'a, contentment. Be pleased with whatever Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala has endowed you with. And Allah told us in the Quran, if you are grateful, I will certainly give you more. So the door to increase from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the door of contentment and gratitude. And you should know that the matter of the believer is amazing matter. The true believer, al-mu'min, his matter or her matter is amazing. Why? Because whenever they are given endowments from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, they are grateful, they are thankful, they praise Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and exalt Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for those ni'am, for those endowments. And that's good for them. And that same believer, whenever they're tested, whenever they're giving hardships and difficulties and calamities, they are patient. They are patient. And what is patience? Patience is enduring the calamities and the difficulties and the hardships that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in your path on your journey to him. That's patience. And it entails remaining steadfast in acts of obedience despite the calamities and avoiding sins as a result of the calamities. You don't fall into sins. So I don't have money, let me go do something unlawful to get money, which is a sin. No, I am patient. I stay doing what Allah ordered me to do, and I refrain from the sins. That's a challenge, but it's part of patience. And the believer, when they're afflicted with hardships and calamities and difficulties, they are patient. And through that, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will give them an opening. So when they are afflicted with difficulties and hardships and challenges, they are patient, and that is good for them. And this is only for the believer. The Prophet ﷺ specified the believer in this issue. It is the believer. And the believer is that one who has a firm, unrelenting conviction. Listen, I want to give you some advice. Take it from me. It's the best advice I could give myself and you. Nothing, zero, absolutely nothing is more important than your relationship with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Please, everyone put that up. Nothing, absolutely nothing is more important than your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Absolutely nothing is more important than your relationship with Allah. And all of you know, we are human beings. All of us have had experiences in our lives that should have taught us that. Nothing is more important than your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So we learned in our studies that if you gain everything in existence, everything in this world, you get it, and you lose your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have lost everything. And if you gain everything in this world, if you lose everything in this world, you lose everything in this world, everything, you don't have nothing, and you still have an excellent relationship with Allah, you have gained everything. I repeat, if you gain everything in this world, every desire you have, you gain it, and you lose your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have lost everything. And if you lose everything in this world and you maintain your relationship with Allah, you have gained everything. Never forget that. Never, ever forget that. Allah is Al-Hakim. He's the wise. He puts everything where it needs to be at its preordained time and place. Surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of your affairs, and you will be a winner. That is my advice. Inshallah, we reach to page 117. At the bottom, so let's read the Mujtahid Imams. Go one paragraph above. Al-Fatiha to the soul of Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, Al-Fatiha.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, the Mujtahid Imams trained a number of scholars who were at this level. Imam Shafi'i had
So
Muzani.
these levels is the level to deduce legal rulings.
Imam Shafi'i had Muzani, and Imam Abu Hanifa had Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani. It was to such students that Abu Hanifa addressed his words. It is unlawful for whoever does not know my evidence to give my position as a fatwa.
And likewise, it was the statement of Imam Shafi'i who said, whenever you find an authentic hadith, that is my madhab.
Related by Muhammad Hamid in his Majmu' al-Rasail. And it is not lawful for anyone to give our position as a fatwa until he knows where we have taken it from. Same as Muhammad Hamid. It is one of the howlers of our times that these words are sometimes quoted as though they were addressed to ordinary Muslims. If it were unlawful for the carpenter, the sailor, the computer programmer, the doctor to do any act of worship before he had mastered the entire textual corpus of the Quran and thousands of hadiths, together with all the methodological principles needed to weigh the evidence and comprehensively join between it, he would either have to give up his profession or give up his religion. A
And here, one of the things that has been a big fabrication that has been told to many of us is that there's no skill in Islamic knowledge. There's no need for expertise. Islamic knowledge, legal rulings, anyone can do it. So anyone can read the Quran and Sunnah and extract legal rulings and make up rules. There's no need for any expertise in the field. And this is a fallacy. There are experts in the field, and there are people who shouldn't be doing it at all. They're not even novices. They're not even beginners. They shouldn't be doing any of that. They're obligated to follow. There are these things. And in our time, it's become common and it's been pushed from certain quarters of those who claim to be Muslim that anyone has the ability to just do whatever they want. And it's become the norm in our communities where everyone has an opinion, even if their opinion is based on no religious knowledge and training. But I have an opinion. I think. And you would find that our communities are ran by that. No one studies, no one picks up books, no one sits with teachers. Everyone just has an opinion, I think, based on some other thing that has nothing to do with the religion. Nothing has to do with the religious rules. And to the point that those non-religious rules and opinions become the thing that run the Muslim community, not the religion. The people don't know the religion. It's what I think. I didn't study. I didn't learn. I've not finished one book, but I'm making judgments. I haven't finished one book, but I know what I'm talking about. I read a hadith and I read a verse of Quran. I did no studying, no training at all in the thing I'm talking about, but I'm authority in it. And that comes from that idea, which is a fallacy. It's not true. Even if it's become the norm, it's not true. There are professionals, there are experts, there is a series of training, there are requisites and conditions that you need to know. We may have some, we may not have, but they exist. We cannot just throw them out the window and say, you know what, this is what I think. And since no one can tell me what to do anyway, I can think what I want, and so what? That's all of us in a state. That's called lisan al-hal. None of us say that. But we have this thing with us. No one tells me what to do. No one. In religion, I'm talking about. In religion, not even Allah and His Messenger. I do what I want. And I interpret the way I want. I think what I want. And then I give legal rulings based on that, which is dangerous. For our whole environment and our futures, this is dangerous. And all of us should realize how dangerous it is, no matter who does it. We have to, because our desires, all of us, will go crazy. Us, if we just go by what we think and what we want, we will go crazy. We have to stick to our religious rules and let that be, after learning it, the deciding factor on what we do, how we move, how we act, how we study, how we learn, how we interact, how we do business, how we buy, how we sell, how we wake up, how we sleep, how we drink, how we interrelate with our families, how we interrelate with our children, how we interrelate with our spouses. The thing that should be governed by is the sacred law, as understood and deduced by qualified legal scholarship. That's where we need to strive to get at. But first, in order to get there, we have to admit that we're messing it up, that we're not doing it properly, and then learn the proper way and implement it. We have to do that. It's a must. Now, go ahead.
A lifetime of study would hardly be enough for this, a fact that Abu Hanifa knew better than anyone else, and it was to scholars of Istinbat, the Mujtahids, that he addressed his remarks.
Read that line again. A lifetime of study.
A lifetime of study would hardly be enough for this, a
Now,
fact.
stop there for a minute. A lifetime of study would hardly be enough for this. So, to get this level of the mujtahid, that's a lifetime of study, right? All of those imams, they started when they were children, and they were around the best and the most elite of Islamic scholarship in their time and place. They were among the best this nation had to offer to reach where they reached. Let us be honest. How many of us have studied 10 books, just 10, in a given Islamic science, whether it's Aqidah, Fiqh, Tasawwuf, Hadith, Tafsir, just for example, 10 different books with a teacher from cover to cover. How many of us have done that? I'm saying just 10 books in any science. You can divide the sciences, I don't care, just to give you the point. In 10 books from cover to cover with a teacher. And that teacher tested you to make sure you understood. And if we be honest, most of us, the vast majority of us, would say, I haven't. So how are you making legal judgments? You haven't even did the work. And you're challenging people who that was their life. Hundreds of books, not 10. Hundreds of books. 10 books in the same science. And that book, tens and 20, 30, 40 times. Memorization, checking, examining, debating the issue, researching the issue. That was their life. And for us, we didn't do anything, yet we're an authority. We didn't do anything, and we're an authority. And because of that, we won't even get to do the work that is needed to be done to begin the process. So we should think about it. Now, go ahead.
A fact that Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, knew better than anyone else, and it was to scholars of Istinbat, the Mujtahids, that he addressed his remarks. Whoever quotes these words to non-scholars to try to suggest that Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, meant that it is wrong for ordinary Muslims to accept the work of scholars should stop for a moment to reflect how insane this is.
Get it
Particularly,
again? Whoever quotes these words, which they do,
whoever quotes these words to non-scholars to try to suggest that Abu Hanifa meant that it is wrong for ordinary Muslims to accept the work of scholars should stop for a moment to reflect how insane this is.
and
Particularly,
you should highlight that word. If someone is going to take the words of scholars, talking to scholars, and apply it to non-scholars, common people, and say you should just follow Quran and Sunnah, that is insane. And the more we learn, you're going to see how insane that is. Even though it's the common thing that's being told, it's insanity.
particularly in view of the life work of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah from beginning to end, which consisted precisely in summarizing the fiqh rulings of the religion for ordinary people to follow and benefit from.
Mm.
Imam Shafi'i was also addressing this top level of scholars when he said, when a hadith is rigorously authenticated, sahih, It is my position, madhab, which has been misunderstood by some to mean that if one finds a hadith, for example, in Sahih al-Bukhari, that is inconsistent with a position of Shafi'is, one should presume that he was ignorant of it, drop the fiqh, and accept the hadith. The examples mentioned so far.
And guess, here's the thing. That's the position. They've tricked you. Don't follow a madhab. I follow Quran and Sunnah. As if the Imams and all those thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Muslims who follow madhabs for the past 1,200 years didn't follow Quran and Sunnah. I want to repeat that. I don't follow no madhab. I follow Quran and Sunnah. So am I to understand from that that the madhab is not following Quran and Sunnah? And let me explain to you what the madhab consists of. The madhab consists of the greatest level of Islamic scholars in every time and place, at every generation, from the time of the Prophet to his companions, to the followers and followers of the followers, and the generation in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and now to the 15th century, all around the world, all of the top level scholars and common people in every place and time since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the development of the madhabs have been following that way, and they were all wrong. And you, without that expertise, nowhere close to it, are following Quran and Sunnah, and they weren't. I'm going to just sit that right there, and I want you to think about it. I'm going to sit it there for a second, and I want you to think about what is being said. You or me or anyone like us is following Quran and Sunnah, and the best scholars in every field of this nation were on some bid'ah, some innovation. They didn't know the Quran and Sunnah. Come on, you can't be serious, right? Now, that's from an observer standpoint. Let's have a little closer look. At every generation, they were all, those scholars, all of them were hafiz of the Quran, memorizers of the Quran. A great portion of them were hufaz of hadith and above. They were master memorizers of hadith. They memorized 100,000 hadith with the chains and more than that. A great mass majority of them, because that was their field, the hadith, and they follow the madhab. And here come you don't even know 2 hadith with the chain of narration. But you making legal judgments. So all of them who follow the madhab with all that skill, yet they were masters of the Arabic language and the related sciences, and you master nothing. But you are following Quran and Sunnah, and they following men. I'm going to ask you, now that you think about it, is that not insane, as the author mentioned? Now that you think about it, and I didn't go in detail, I just gave you some observation to the issue. Is that not insane? But guess what? We live insanity as a normal way of life in our approach to Islam. We have been living insanity as a normal approach to our Islamic life and study. Insanity. And we wonder why we find ourselves in the condition we're in. We're insane. That's why. This insanity we're practicing. And we're calling it Quran and Sunnah. It's insanity. It's not Quran and Sunnah. It's insanity. And we should think of it like that. It's insanity. We should really, really ponder on that. Because none of us want to be insane. So we need to stop doing insane things. That's insanity. And we're calling it Quran and Sunnah. I'm following Quran and Sunnah. It's insanity. Now, go ahead.
The examples mentioned so far of joining between several hadiths for a single ruling are too clear to misunderstand Shafi'i in this way. Shafi'i's rahimahullah is referring to hadiths that he was previously unaware of and that mujtahid scholars know him to have been unaware of when he gave a particular ruling. And this, as Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah has said, is very difficult. For Shafi'i rahimahullah was aware of a great deal. We have heard the opinion of Shafi'i's student Ahmed ibn Hanbal about how many hadiths a faqih must know.
And he mentioned that it's around 400,000. And when they say that with the chains of narration, so that could give you the mind of a Shafi'i.
And he unquestionably considered Shafi'i to be such a scholar, for Shafi'i rahimahullah was his sheikh in fiqh. Ibn Khuzaymah, who is known as the Imam of Imams for the amount of his hadith memorization, was once asked, "Do you know of a rigorously authenticated Sahih hadith that Shafi'i rahimahullah did not include in his books?" And he said no, related in Al-Majmu'. Imam Dhahabi rahimahullah has said, "Shafi'i never made a single mistake in hadith," related in Tabaqatul Shafi'iyya al-Kubra. It is clear from all of this that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah's statement, "When a hadith is rigorously authenticated, sahih, it is my position," only makes sense and could result in meaningful corrections if addressed to scholars at a level of hadith mastery comparable to his own.
نعم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So this is important. And we're going through this book. And for those who don't have the book, let me give you the link. Allah, 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 Allah. 1 second. Here's the link for the book for those of you who do not have the book. You can acquire the book there at that link. Really, we're starting over. And it's difficult to start over, right? It's very difficult. I understand that. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'm only going to be a few minutes and we'll close out. But if you have questions, just put it up, inshallah. And if you had a question I didn't answer, put it back because I didn't get a chance to. So put it back. And we have to be patient with that process, right? Sometimes we have to empty our cup to get clean water, right? You don't put, and a lot of since we didn't have this systematic system of learning, we got to start over. Let me give you a hint how to do that, right? I'm going to give you a hint of how to do that. I do it all the time. You have to learn to categorize your studies. In other words, you have to be able to learn from one teacher and keep what you learned from that teacher and not mix it what you learned from another teacher or what you learned on your own. That's why note taking is kind of good. So whatever I learn from you, I keep that from you. Whatever I learned on my own, I keep it on my own. Whatever I learn in this session, I keep it in this session. I never mix them. I learned this from A to Z. Wherever I started, whatever I learned, whatever I heard, it never gets mixed with something else, right? So when I have Ibn Khuzaymah was in the 4th century. I'm not sure is exact, is it 311, but you can check. It should be in the back of Reliance of the Traveler. If not, I'll check it for you. Offhand, I'm not quite sure it's the exact death date, Isa. But you can check it. If not, I'll get it to you. I gotta go check. I gotta go look his exact date. But he's in the 4th century. I know that. Because he's after Imam al-Bukhari and all of them. So don't mix. And in this way, it's always a fresh book. And everything you learn from that teacher is what he told you as he said it, and it's not confused with others things. And then you will know if there is confusion where it came. You won't be mixing things, right? It's not just make no big bag. This is all Islam. Don't do that. This is the Islam as I learned it from so-and-so. This is the Islamic knowledge as I learned it from so-and-so. This is the Islamic knowledge as I learned it from so-and-so. Don't mix them all up. And then have a separate, this is my understanding of all the Islamic knowledge I learned. But this is my understanding. But if you want to know what I learned from him, it was this. What I learned from him, it was this. What I learned from him, it was that. Or what I learned from her was that. Y'all follow this point? It's very important, right? Don't mix. Because what you will end up doing, if you put it all in one big bag, you're going to put things together that don't belong together. You're going to mix things that shouldn't be mixed. It's better to attribute to everyone what you got from them. And then make your own notes how you join between them. But that should be your joining, not them joining. Is this point clear? I know it's a lot of work. We're probably not used to it, but that's how you study. You don't mix everything up. Everything is separate. And this will ensure that you never attribute to someone something they didn't teach you, right? It's very important. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I will bring it to a close. Keep each other in our dua. We are all on this journey together. None of us got it down packed, right? We all need each other's support and dua and companionship. And I thank you for you diligently coming every morning to study with me, to share with me. You know, it's good. And inshallah, that Allah accept our deeds, that is sincere, reward us for our correct things, and pardon us and forgive us for our mistakes, and allow us to be winners on the day of judgment. Insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. All right, no questions. Let me just check, see if there's anything close. What did the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum and the Salafi follow? The Sahaba followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he was right there. And the jurists, the learned jurists among the Sahaba. So the general companions weren't making legal judgments. They followed the legal scholars among them, like Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Umar, Zayd ibn Thabit, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the likes, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. They were the jurists, the fuqaha among the companions. So the companions followed them. And then the next generation after the companions were the followers. They followed the legal jurists among them and those companions that were left. And after the companions died, they followed the legal jurists in their centuries. Then after that, that's the time in the Tabi'in and the Atba' Tabi'in, that's the time of the four Imams. After that, they followed the jurists in their times until after the four schools were preserved in a unified form, and the Muslims have been following that ever since. So, in short, there's never been a time in the Muslim nation where common people were making legal rulings. That never existed, except in our time, that it's become like the dominant way. Even though there are legal scholars, but that's not the majority of the Muslim world. It's just prominent in our environments, but that's not the case in knowledge circles where people learn. That's among common people. May Allah elevate our state, inshallah. Tayyib, I remind you tonight, Sheikh Walid Rifai will continue his classes. And January 6th, 7th, and 8th of 2023, Sheikh Samir al-Nasr, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, will be in Atlantic City for a program. We're still formulating exactly what he's going to teach. We have several things, and we are waiting for him to select which one he thinks is most beneficial. We have several different books we want to do, and we're going to let him decide which book he thinks is most suitable. And we'll have a flyer out, inshallah, soon. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.